hello, hola, ni hao, bonjour, privet, mrabon. These are the greetings of the UN recognized languages. But what is UN and what does it do? Well, in this video, I will explain. The United Nations was created in the aftermath of World War II on October 24th, 1945. The United Nations was created by the allies of World War II and was originally the idea of Franklin Delano Roosevelt as a replacement for the failed League of Nations. However, FDR never lived to see the United Nations implemented as he died in 1945. The president that would begin the rebuilding of the post-war world would be Harry S. Truman. However, the UN was created to prevent another world war from happening and maintain peace around the world. The main plan for the United Nations was the 5 permanent Security Council members of the United Nations: the Soviet Union, United States, Republic of China, France, and the United Kingdom. However, after the fall of the Soviet Union, the mantle was passed down to Russia, and after the Chinese Civil War, the Republic of China was exiled to Taiwan, and the People's Republic of China took its place on the Security Council. These 5 countries have more power than any other countries in the UN, and one veto of any of the 5 would mean a resolution not came passed. Therefore, the Security Council members must all agree for something to pass. Do you see the problem? Anyway, the main policies of the United Nations are international peace and security, protect human rights, deliver humanitarian aid, support sustainable development and climate action, and uphold international law. However, the thing about these jobs that the UN claims to take care of, they simply do not cover these issues. Let's start with international peace and security. In the last 2 years, there have been many wars around the world. The Sudanese Civil War, the insurrections in Chad, or military coups in Niger. However, none as destructive, violent, and disturbing as the 2 of them. And I am talking about the Israel-Hamas war and Russo-Ukrainian war. This is clearly because of the rule of the Permanent Security Council member states. Of course, the United Nations has no authority. The UN is just a load of countries that meet over diplomacy and issues around the globe. If countries like Russia and the United States disagree about the Russo-Ukrainian war, it's because of the system, the UN cannot do anything about helping Ukraine. Instead, the heavy lifting of funding for Ukraine is put on the shoulders of NATO. Even with the Hamas-Israel war, the United Nations cannot maintain peace because they are not an organization. They are an organization, but organized by countries with different interests and beliefs. Therefore, they cannot make a resolution on the war, leaving the Israel-Hamas war ongoing and continuously debated by average Joes like Bob and Mike about which country is right.
Well, actually, Palestine is right. No, you dum-dum. Israel is right. You're actually so wrong. Where is your evidence? Where is your evidence? I am right.
This leaves the world divided on these issues and makes international peace not a solution. And if organization is organized like this, there will never be international peace. The second job of the United Nations is human rights protections, which the United Nations makes a lazy attempt at. They cannot even acknowledge certain tragedies around the world. For example, the Uyghur Muslims who live in Xinjiang, the northwestern province of China, who are suppressed to the point of genocide. They are killed, beaten, and forced into unpaid labor by the People's Republic of China. However, the UN does not bring this up much. They acknowledge it. However, there is no legitimate stance, as China is a large part of the United Nations. The UN cannot even clarify if human rights violations are violations. How do you expect them to assist with human rights? They simply have no authority or power over anything. I would say at this point the United Nations is no better than the already failed League of Nations. The third job of the United Nations is delivering humanitarian aid. However, that is completely false. In the Israel-Hamas war, the United Nations has proved ineffective when it comes to aid of the citizens of Gaza, or aid to people affected by the invasion by Hamas. In the war, the UN trusted Israel to deliver this aid. However, they did not. Instead, the aid delivering was once again placed on the shoulders of the southern nations of Jordan and the United States, who could only deliver aid via parachute drops of food into Gaza, a non-foolproof answer to solving the issue. However, at least They, the U.S., is trying something instead of the United Nations sitting back and watching. The fourth job of the United Nations is to support sustainable development and climate action, a new job recently brought up by the UN around a decade ago. In this department, however, the United Nations does hold up. On climate change, the United Nations works as most nations see it as a real threat, which it is, and can agree on these things. So, on climate change, the United Nations does a good job, but for the last job of the United Nations, they fail miserably. The final job of the United Nations is to uphold international law. However, like I said before, the United Nations has no authority. So I ask you viewers, how do you uphold international law when you have zero authority? The thing is, the United Nations can put people on trial. However, that can only be achieved by the turn of international criminals from their respective countries. And the United Nations decides who is the international criminal. Take Vladimir Putin, for example. The United Nations has declared him a war criminal and has said he must go to trial. However, this statement has no weight, as the UN needs the Russian government to turn Putin in, and Putin is the dictator of Russia. Do you see the problem? The UN saying someone is a criminal has no weight. It has the same weight as me saying some random person is a criminal. The United Nations upholds international law this way. However, the main point I'm trying to make is that the UN makes laws, rules, etc., but they have no enforcement of if to make you make a law. It is not a law if it has no enforcement. What I'm saying here, the United Nations is sometimes ineffective.